Welcome back. Thanks for sticking around. We are excited to, again, have a conversation with Shelby Baxter Andrews. I am going to first introduce, though, Roger Wright. As many of you know, Roger has been the chair of our search committee now, not just for this last year, but honestly for the last 3 years, as we have been working to fill this really important position in the life of our congregation. So I'm going to turn it over to Roger to do some more of the background and presentation. Thanks, Roger, for being here.
Good morning, everybody. It's nice to be here and really to share in some really exciting news for our church. As Sarah said, the last 3 years we've had different committees together and various people to search for someone to work as a youth director. As things evolved, we kind of moved it into a different position, and we're really excited to be here today. That it really has culminated in what we're so excited to announce. So at first, let me just kind of give a little history of what we did. In 2018, we had Megan Colasar was doing the youth director, and she then departed and moved on. In 2019, Jenna White did an interim role and filled with that. And then in 2019 and 20, Allie Miguel served an interim youth director role for us. When Allie departed, we had some conversations, about the need. I know a lot of our youth had voiced, and others as well, a frustration that we were getting the constant turnover in that position. And, we felt strongly it was important if we were going to, make the youth program stronger, if we were going to help the church grow, then we would, have to take some steps different than what we had been doing the last couple years. So we did form a new committee. See if I can bring them up for you here. Okay, and you can see the committee members there: Katie Borman, Chris Jones, Kevin Kaufman, Carol Heisler, Jen Carlson, Amy Tuck, Cindy Farver, and Sarah West. And then we also felt it important to include the youth throughout the whole process. So we did have youth representatives: Cecilia West, Josh Heller, Anna Blamble, Kayla Kerstetter, Liz Gromowski, Brandon Wright, Sophia Novak. We had others that also served at different points. So before I forget, and I don't want to forget, to thank Paul Huber for the personnel help that he gave, and also to Lisa Jones. Lisa was a very valuable asset to us on more than one occasion. She got dragged into our virtual meetings and discussions, so I wanted to thank her as well. All right, as we got down to business, things that we did: we revised the job description. We turned it into a position where it was really part associate pastor, part youth director. We did a survey of the congregation. Before we started interviewing, we felt it was important to figure out what they were looking for, what they could give us to guide us as we look for this person. We got involved in the regional search and call process through the Disciples Church of Christ Church, and we spent several months in that search and call process. We were kind of limited to the candidates that had applied through that process, and quite frankly, it was a long process. It was bogging us down. We weren't getting the number of candidates, the quality of candidates that we had hoped to get. So we did make a decision to expand and post outside of the search and call process, and when we did that, we did get a lot of candidates coming in, and we really started moving forward at that point and beginning the interviews. All right, so there's the breakdown. We put some numbers up there for you. Reviewed 51 applicants. Total. We reviewed each one of them when they would come in. 35. We would kind of narrow things down. We'd put them in categories. Somebody we want to talk to right away. Somebody we might wait on, and circle back to. We talked about, we did brief phone interviews. We were at a point where we were getting so many candidates that we felt it was important to kind of screen which ones that we wanted to do a whole group interview with, because that was hard to do virtually, and plus you have busy people with busy schedules. So we became a little bit more selective of who we did in-person interviews with. And in the end, we interviewed 12 candidates. 8 of them were male, 4 of them were female, conducted first-round interviews, and then developed a process for a second-round interview once we hit on Shelby. So let me back up and just talk about that interview with Shelby to give you an idea of what the committee saw when we looked at her. First of all, before we met her and we looked at her resume, just the variety of experiences that she had. And I don't know what other committee members did, but what I did was I had her resume, and I went through with a highlighter, and I did 2 different colors. One for associate pastor experiences that I felt, things in her background that would serve her well as an associate pastor. And I took another color marker, and I went through and highlighted experiences on her resume that would prepare her well for a youth director. And as I went through that and looked at it afterwards, and I brought it out again as I prepared for this, it's almost equal in colors. And there were some of those experiences that would prepare for both. But that to me really kind of stood out. When the next piece, we saw her online materials before we met her. And she had extensive online materials that really helped us get to know her before we even spoke with her. The materials that she had online, she had videos, she had projects that she had worked on. She had, besides the resume and all your traditional things, she had a plethora of other items that really helped us get to know her, and very detail-oriented. You could just tell when you looked at her online materials. Here is somebody that is very motivated, that is very detail-oriented, and the whole thing everything was professionally done. So before we even met her, we had a good idea of what we were going to run into when we did get a chance to speak with her. When we did get to speak with her, again, these were my notes. These are just things I wrote down, but warm personality, positive energy, great communication skills, strong people skills, a passion for youth. I think she said that 3 or 4 times in the interview. That came out, how she loved working with young people, her organization skills, and her maturity. When she came in for the second round interview and she conducted a youth group class, the notes that I wrote, talent for working with young people, so it looked good on paper, but sometimes it looks good on paper, and when a person gets in front of young people, it just doesn't translate. Well, I was very happy to see, in this case, it did. She has a talent for working with young people. She's relatable, she's interesting, she's inviting, she's warm. All those things come through when Shelby interacts with young people. So those are all good things. We got the feedback from the group, and for those in the congregation that have been a part of interview teams, it's everything that you want to happen. You hit on the right candidate. By that time, we had interviewed a number of people. Everybody's kind of getting frustrated and getting nervous. Are we going to find this person? But after that first interview with Shelby, I didn't say a word. I just looked at the faces on the screen, and you could tell people were like, that was really good. And I think we all felt at that time that was a special person that we just talked to. So we gathered feedback. We made the reference calls, and again, as a person that's done a lot of reference calls in my work, all the things that you want to hear. Loved to work with her. She hated when she left. She was such a valuable asset to our church. All those things, came through. So After that, after the youth, and I know she had several informal conversations with Sarah in the meantime, after all those things came together, we really made a unanimous decision by the search committee to offer the position to Shelby pending board approval. Again, I thank Paul Huber and the folks on the personnel committee. They reviewed a package, what we could offer her. We asked them to do that, and they responded quickly because we all felt as a committee, when you come across a candidate like this, they tend not to be out there too long. And, so we acted quickly, and Shelby gave her a call, and she was traveling at the time when I called her, and she said that she would, think about it. She'd, give us a call when she got to where she was going, and so we all, told that to the committee and left it in God's hands. And I know everybody was praying that she would answer this call, and then she did contact Sarah and let her know. So we were very, very pleased with all that. So the board will meet to conduct the final interview and to vote. And when I talk to the board, or if they're listening now, I would just say she's one of those candidates that you look at the application materials. I always think when you interview someone for a position, it's a series of, it's not one thing, it's a combination of things. They're all pieces in the puzzle. So when you think of the pieces of the puzzle, the application materials, the credentials that she came with, the reference checks, the interviews, the feedback from everybody combined. And I always felt when I had to present a candidate as a teacher or somebody to the schools, I always, in my mind, was thinking, what is their presentability? How presentable is this candidate? Are there things that you have to address or you're going to have to bring? And no candidate's perfect. But I'll tell you, Shelby checked all those boxes. And she checked them in big fashion. And, I feel with God's blessing and given time, she's going to get in here and get acclimated. I think she's going to be in a position where all those skills and talents and abilities and her passions are going to come together. And I think she's going to be a very valuable asset to First Christian Church in Wadsworth. So, thank you.
Thank you, Roger. As you all know, we are just so incredibly blessed in our congregation with amazing leaders. And I just want to especially thank Roger today because he has put in many hours of effort on this over, as I said, multiple years. He is so passionate about the youth in our congregation and providing them with the best possible opportunity for growth and spiritual nurture. And I just can't thank him enough for all of his time that he spent working with us and our search committee. Well, all right, I know you're anxious to get to talk with her directly, so we're going to get to that. Just give me 2 minutes. I'm going to go through a quick little slideshow and give you a little bit more background on Shelby, and then we'll turn it over, and you'll get to hear from her directly, and then also share some questions with us. So let me tell you a little bit about Shelby. Shelby is, as you know, our candidate for this position, both that combined position of associate pastor and youth ministries director. As Roger said, we feel like she has a perfect combination of skills for both of those roles. So I found out just in putting this slideshow together that Shelby was born in my hometown of St. Louis, Missouri, which was kind of fun. She was raised in Gulf Breeze, Florida. She graduated from the University of West Florida. She majored in interdisciplinary social sciences, so she specialized in child welfare and also with a minor in early childhood education. So she also has a love and passion for children as well as youth and young adults. For seminary, she went to Columbia Theological Seminary in Decatur, Georgia, did a dual master's degree there in divinity and practical theology. She also met her husband, Patrick, there while they were in seminary together. Patrick was studying to become ordained in the Cooperative Baptist Fellowship. And there they are, beautiful, happy couple. And they have now made their home in Akron. So they moved up here with their 4 adorable little cats, Jenny, Lily, Dobby, and Minerva. And and we'll hear a little bit more. We'll let Shelby tell you a little bit more about she and Patrick later. But her most recent ministerial position was at Ormwood Church, which is in southeast Atlanta. This is a church plant. And she is a member of the Presbyterian Church USA. She serves as a ruling elder in the Presbyterian Church. Now, as Roger said, we want you to hear directly from her references what they have said about Shelby. Reverend Haley said she's creative but still respects tradition. She's great with young people, organized, has great follow-through, that your church will be blessed to have her. Ben, who worked with her through outreach ministries, told us that she is a bridge builder between people, friendly, efficient, and well-prepared. I'm a big fan. Dr. Rebecca Spurrier, the dean from the seminary, said she's creative as well as detail-oriented. I think an amazing combination. Not always easy to come by. Any church would be lucky to have her. We were sad to see her go. And there she is, being doused. A baptism by the youth. No. All right. So that is it for us talking. We're going to let you hear a little bit directly from Shelby now, and then we'll take some of your questions. Do you want to come up here? Or do you want to do here? What would you rather do? You good? Okay.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Sarah and Roger, and the whole search committee for all of your work. It's been such a pleasure to get to know all of you, and I'm really excited to be a candidate for this position. What else would you like to know about me?
Well,
just a little bio, or
tell us a little bit about your call to ministry. That would be great.
Yeah. So I first felt called to ministry when I was a middle school youth. I was very active in the church growing up and had seen a lot of really great examples. My mom was an elder in the church. My dad played bass in the praise band. And the church community was just really a community of love. And I figured, hey, this place is great. I would love to do this for the rest of my life. And as I got older, that calling matured and was refined. And I discovered that the church has not always been that place for everyone. So it became a big part of my calling to try to make that more of a reality, that people who have been excluded and have not felt love from the church, that they would know Christ and that they would know the love of God in the way that I do. I also really connect with God through music, so being a singer in the praise band growing up and in our youth choir, I later led a praise band, and when I was at Ormwood, I was in the praise band, and I connect with God through both traditional and contemporary music, and so that's also been a part of my calling, and I like to think that it integrates different parts of my ministry. I've had the pleasure of working with children and with youth and young adults, adults of all ages, and doing that in different capacities as a worship leader, as children's or youth ministries volunteers or director positions. I had the chance to work at an outreach nonprofit with youth. And so through all of that time, again, like I said, my calling has really grown, and I feel very excited to work in the church setting because, like I said, that's where I originally found my home. And so that call was strengthened throughout seminary as I learned more about pastoral care and worship leadership and Bible and theology and all the things you learn in seminary. And so, yeah, when I came here to Akron with my husband, Patrick, I was nervous about finding a place that would connect with me and with my ministry, and that I would connect with them in their ministry. And so it's been such a gift to find First Christian Church and to be considered for this position. I feel like we could do really great things together. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Shelby. Now, through the wonders of technology, we've only done this a couple times, so bear with us, but there is the ability for all of you who are watching live on Facebook or YouTube to go ahead and put into the chat any questions, things you would like to know about Shelby, and I will ask her. But I will give you a minute to formulate your thoughts and put your questions through. So while people are doing that, I just have to ask you, Shelby, about the hot dog costume, because I'm very curious. I really want to know more about what that was all about.
Yes. Okay. So when I was working at Ormwood Church, my first year there as an intern, one thing that I learned is that Ormwood Park Presbyterian Church, which is the church that was in place before ours, had this longstanding neighborhood tradition of doing a hot dog feast on Halloween. So on Halloween, they opened up the church fellowship hall, and trick-or-treaters and their parents could come in and get some free hot dogs and, lemonade and water. You have access to the facilities, just get indoors because Atlanta is often still hot in October. And so that was a big part of their ministry. And when Ormwood Church was planted there, the neighborhood said, great, so when's the hot dog feast? Are you ready for Halloween? And it was our very first year. And I joked with the pastor that someone should wear a hot dog suit. And one of the leadership team members said, I have a hot dog suit. And I was like, oh, great. I think I just volunteered myself. So I actually started a tradition of Ormwood Church interns wearing a hot dog suit to the Halloween feast. And that was a really great ministry to be a part of. We got to know some of the neighbors in the neighborhood who didn't come to our church. And yeah, it was just a lot of fun seeing everybody's costumes and gathering as a community.
Thank you. It was inquiring minds want to know, so now we know. So yes, we did get a couple questions through. So one question, this was a question I was also asked when I began here, which is, what would you like to be called when people address you?
That's a great question. I think either Pastor Shelby, I know you go by Pastor Sarah, Pastor Shelby or just Shelby is fine, honestly. As a young person, it's nice to have the title because I think it sort of lets folks know that I'm qualified for this work, even though I'm young. But I also recognize that, as you said earlier, Sarah, this is the priesthood of all believers, and so really we're all qualified to do excellent ministry. So I'm fine just going by my name.
All right, we also had a question about what is your experience, if any, with teens with special needs, or maybe even broader, with children with special needs?
Yeah, so my experience with children and youth with special needs is not as extensive as I would like it to be. I was in youth group growing up with a few students with special needs, and I have worked with some children, but actually I've mostly worked with adults with special needs. So that's an area where I definitely would like to learn and grow. But I am very willing and excited to do that.
So tell us more about how you see your fit with First Christian. What interested you most in this position?
So one thing that I was initially attracted to about the position was that it was a combination of associate pastor and youth director, because as someone who loves youth and children, I have often seen youth and children's ministries pushed to the side and not necessarily incorporated in the larger church. And I just feel that youth and children have so much to contribute And so I realized that being able to also be an associate pastor and engage in other ministries that I love, like worship, would also give me the chance to make sure that youth and children are included in all of the ministries of the church.
And tell us a little bit about why you and your husband ended up moving to Akron. Obviously, you're from the South. You went to school in the South and lived in the South, right?
We're both from the South. And my husband, Patrick, graduated seminary a few years before I did and did 2 years of chaplaincy residency at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. He is called to pediatric chaplaincy specifically. He really loves that work, and so he applied all over the country to see what jobs were open, and one of those job openings was at Akron Children's Hospital. And when he visited, he really liked the feel of Akron. He really loved the hospital. I still had another year of seminary, and so we recognized that that would mean spending some time apart. But I was like, hey, I'm down to move to Ohio. I don't really know much about it, but he's been here since September, and I moved to join him in January. We bought a house. We're very planted in this community and want to really learn more about it and grow here. So that's why we came here. And well, while we haven't gotten to know the area as well as we could have without a pandemic, what we've gotten to know so far, we really love. So
There'll be lots of excursions to take and exploring to do once things open back up again. And but you did survive part of a winter already, so you've gone through your first Ohio winter, so that's encouraging, and you're still here, so that's good. We're glad. Let's see, and it's just you and Patrick and your 4 kitty cats. Yes, settled here in Akron. I'm just looking to see if are there any other questions out there that people, or even in here, we have a few members still here in the sanctuary. And you will have an opportunity to give any feedback you have. As Roger mentioned, the board is going to be meeting on Tuesday, so that's at 7 o'clock on Tuesday night. It'll be a virtual meeting. All of our board meetings are open to all of our members. All you have to do is get the link from the office. You can certainly call the office and get the link if you would like to be a part of that meeting. The board will have a chance also to get to know Shelby a little better on Tuesday evening, and then we will have our vote. So thank you all so much for taking the time to tune in today, and thank you, Shelby, for coming, helping to worship lead, sharing so openly about yourself and your gifts for ministry. As we know, everything is in God's hands, as Roger said, and that was the prayer of our search committee, that God would just work through us and be in the midst of that process and help us discern what God is calling us to as a congregation. We know that we have this amazing opportunity in Wadsworth with our young people and our young adults to really provide some meaningful church experiences for them and also for our broader congregation. And we are so excited about what God has planned for all of us. So please pray for us, pray for all of us, pray for discernment and wisdom and guidance as we go forward. And I think that probably wraps us up for today. Enjoy the beautiful day out there, everyone. Stay cool, and we'll see you next Sunday. God bless you.